If there's one profession you wouldn't expect to see participating in the console wars during their job, it's a profession that takes place in a medical center, and more specifically one that deals with anesthetics. Well, unfortunately, we live in a world where people will, in the middle of operations, get out their phone, which by the way is not meant to be done inside the sterile environment because it's obviously something which can contaminate the operating room, therefore endangering the patient's life, just so that they could own the Xbots on Twitter. I wish I was joking, but this actually happened. A doctor on Twitter showed a video where he not only doxed himself, but also his patient in the process, just to own some quote-unquote Xbox fanboy on Twitter. Here I am after inducing anesthesia, intubating and putting a patient on controlled mechanical ventilation for a laparoscopic cholecystectomy case in operating room, slandering my identity, profession, cause you Xbots can't argue facts, saving lives my job, console wars my hobby, hashtag PS5. Now I obviously did in fact blur the patient's information as well as the dumbass who posted the video, as I don't want to contribute to the doxing, but how the fuck did this guy unironically think this was okay? I don't care that he made multiple shitty apologies, that we'll get into later. We all know those were purely made to save face. After all, tons of people are now posting negative reviews underneath his medical center, reporting the absolute definition of breaking ethics laws here. I personally will not take part in the doxing of this man, and I do not endorse it. However, I will say this. I do not at all believe it's unreasonable to say that he should not be allowed to work in the medical field anymore. This is a man who potentially contaminated an operating room by bringing in an outside phone, something you were never meant to do, and anyone who isn't even a doctor fucking knows that, as it can endanger your patient just to own some dumb fuck on Twitter. That is absolutely abhorrent, and this guy should 100% be ashamed of himself. He potentially endangered his patient's life in doing this. The only safe way to do what he did was to first of all blur the patient's information, which really isn't that fucking hard, and two, not do it in the operating room, do it outside. Like, how did you not think of that? You're a bloody doctor and I'm some dumbass on YouTube. Even I came up with that idea. Not only this, but you just know his apologies are bullshit because he was literally defending himself for hours until a bunch of large YouTubers called him out. First by claiming express witness consent was given by the patient multiple times underneath his initial tweet. Read this. Express written consent was taken from the patient and hospital before posting this information online, as per the latest healthcare compliance pros guidelines. This does not impose a need for concern regarding any breach in patient confidentiality, which if that's true, I see no reason to take down the video from his perspective, and most importantly I have a feeling there would have been a significant amount of missing context for the patient. Imagine your doctor walking up to you and asking if they can film your personal information to then post on Twitter to own someone in the console wars, doxing you as the patient and himself in the process. That is such an incredibly unlikely scenario that I'll happily call bullshit on it. Not only that, the guy went around actively mocking people who were calling him out for seemingly breaking ethics laws. You're a surgical tech, also you're violating patient confidentiality. You know medical law and ethics more than me? Well, clearly they fucking did, because you've quickly backtracked in a multitude of apologies to save face. I accept my mistake. Even though consent was taken from the patient and hospital, this doesn't reveal identity fully or breach confidentiality. Still, the intention shouldn't have been anything apart from healthcare. I apologize for my behavior. Don't lose sleep over it. Deleted. Need a break. Yeah, no shit, you need a break from Twitter and probably the medical field after what you just pulled. At the very least. I can't ever imagine doing something as downright disgusting as this when being a literal medical supposed professional. How on earth did this guy even get through medical school when it took the fan bases of people with millions of subscribers, like some ordinary gamers and the Ant-Man calling him out, for it to click that maybe doxing my patient and myself to own some random on Twitter during the console wars is not a professional, ethic, or mature thing to do. It should not take literally thousands of people telling you this is wrong for you to understand it is. It is blatantly obvious how unethical this was. But hey guys, before we pass any more judgment, let's at the very least take a look at his awful damage control apology on YouTube. Maybe, just maybe, he'll truly be able to win me over with sound and reasonable logic. That is totally sincere, because as we all know, when you make an honest apology, you turn off the like to dislike ratio and you turn off comments.
I start by giving my formal apology for posting a video or a small clip while I was working in an operating room just recently after even taking the consent of the patient. My main intention was absolutely little childish and foolish. I agree, we all make mistakes.
I can only somewhat agree with what he's saying here. Sure, we all do make some mistakes in life, but you are a medical professional. This is not the type of mistake you should be making. None of this should ever be a possibility. I do not care if it was just a mistake. You potentially put your patient's life at risk to own someone on Twitter. It wasn't a little childish. It was incredibly immature. As a doctor, posting your patient's information online should never even be a consideration. It should never cross your mind, especially in this context. This isn't just some mistake, this is a massive one. And to downplay it like this shows you truly do not give a shit about what you did. This is, in my opinion, looking as if you're just trying to save face.
We gotta learn from them and move on. I will be a better man, I'm a grown man, and I think this is getting blown out of proportion.
I'm lost for fucking words. This man put his patient's life in danger and then goes, you know what, everyone else is blowing this out of proportion. I love to be the one to tell you this, but in an apology, you're meant to apologize and then not backtrack on your apology. This weird idea that everyone's blowing it out of proportion is complete horseshit.
And I don't think involving anyone's personal life or targeting them and slandering them so hard for all the people who barely know me, I don't think that is logical.
Out of every single person in this situation, you are the one with the least room to be arguing about facts and logic, my guy. Not only did you potentially put your patient in risk of danger, but you also doxed them and yourself just to own someone on Twitter. You are incredibly immature, and after this quote-unquote apology, I am 100% convinced that you should not be working in the medical field. If you cannot see what you did wrong here, then you are clearly not in an ample situation mentally to be in the position you are. In your daily job, you work with people's lives. If you can't figure out what's unethical about this, then you need to step down. It does honestly terrify me that I could have a doctor like this guy who will pull this kind of bullshit and then not apologize whilst claiming he is, and then claim everyone's blowing it out of proportion. No one is slandering you. Everyone is saying what you did, and you just can't seem to accept that what you did was fucked up, even though it is so blatantly obvious that it was. If you wanted to convince me that you should not be in the medical field, this was the perfect way to do it, my guy.
I accept that what I did was a mistake, a little childish, and bringing up consoles, instead of saying console wars, I say console passion.
Step back, I think I'm gonna vomit!
Instead of bringing that into context of the video of me in the OR, was really not the right way to go ahead.
No shit.
There was no right way to quote-unquote go about it. You shouldn't have done it. End of. This like sidelining you're trying to do to what you actually did and this downplaying you're doing is absolutely pathetic. Even if we take out that, as you put it, console passion, which is an insanely cringy way to put it, hearing that alone just caused me physical and mental pain. You shouldn't have had your phone in the operating room regardless. The fact you are solely homing in onto the fact you made the OR video about the console wars shows that you truly do not understand what you did wrong. That made it worse. What you did in the first place was in and of itself disgusting, and if you did supposedly get the written consent of the patient, that should be in a formal document, so post it. Why are you so timid in showing the formal document of written consent and yet so eager to post the literal docs of your patient? It doesn't make sense. Show us this written consent, because that is the only legal way to get consent in order to film patient documentation without it directly breaking ethics laws and obviously doctor to patient confidentiality. On top of this, I highly doubt you gave the full context of the patient, so even if there was written consent, it may still be invalid.
But the thing is, I've been facing a lot of hatred against my race, religion, my country, and basically people doing so many assumptions. I don't understand why there is so much hatred against me, because I like gaming on certain consoles, which I've been doing since the past many years.
This has absolutely nothing to do with your race. Unless you were in some place like China, what you did more than likely breaks ethics laws. People will obviously not like you fanboying for a system, trying to consistently put down other people just because they play on a different plastic box than you. That is pathetic, and obviously people will not take kindly to it. None of this has to do with your race, and the deflection tactics you're using here by pulling the race card is downright vile. Using racism as a way to try and get yourself out of this situation. People are not criticizing you or quote unquote sending hate to you because you're Indian. They're sending criticism your way because you did something as a medical professional that was entirely unethical, just so you could do something as pathetic as owning someone on Twitter.
I have a wife, a kid who I love, small boy.
I don't fucking care. This frankly stupid attempt to garner sympathy won't work. Everyone can see straight through this. This is a really pathetic attempt to go, oh, I never did anything wrong. The people who are criticizing me are simply racist and people that want my family to suffer. Did I mention I have a family, guys? There's a young boy and a wife. Don't forget that one. Please feel sorry for me. I beg you, please. Ignore the fact I did anything wrong and just feel sorry for me because I have a family.
And for me, if I say I do this on a daily basis in my professional level, I consider my patient inside the OR to the hero, to be the god. It is giving me the opportunity to save lives, and that matters to me the most.
So let me ask you this. Why didn't that take priority over arguing with someone on Twitter? Make it make sense here. Because what you're saying right now in comparison to what you did completely contradicts itself.
More than anything in life, console passion and bringing this up was wrong from me. Absolutely. I apologize for that. But I had to face so much of people talking behind my back, in front of me, clogging up my DMs, everywhere.
You are so evidently not sorry though. You're consistently defending everything you've done while saying you're apologizing. That isn't how an apology works. You either agree that you did something wrong and that there was not good reason behind it, hence it being wrong, or you think what you did wasn't wrong. The moronic excuses you are currently giving everyone are stuff I'd expect to hear from kindergarteners. Explain to me where the logic in this is. Some guy was mean to me on Twitter, so I have to dox my patient whilst they are in the operating room. None of this makes sense if you think about it for more than 2 milliseconds.
Like, questioning my profession, questioning my personal life, questioning my country of origin, my skin color. I don't understand. Let's make a point so that when you're making a discussion or a debate, it has to be limited to that. So I absolutely request all you guys to not make this a habit of trying to make someone miserable for the thing which wasn't meant to be.
So I have to go through over 20 years of education, going through med school, going through entrance exams, going through morning and night libraries. It was hell and high order for me. And then going to post-graduation and doing all this stuff.
And right now what you're doing in your quote-unquote apology is proving what I predicted earlier. When talking about the fact you clearly do not regret what you did, you merely regret the consequences and are desperately trying to save face in the face of those consequences. I do not care about your sub-story. That does not even come close to defending what you did. And there is no reason to bring it up. Everyone in the medical field has done what you just done. Guess what? Not a single one of those has done the exact same thing as you. You are one out of millions, and the story you're using to try and get yourself out of any consequences is not going to work. It does not at all defend what you did, no matter how hard you try to make it seem that way.
So basically what I did was just like a response to something, which I regretted later, but it was too late by then because people started assuming things, so much of inflammatory comments, so much of hatred against me. I'm a human being, guys. I make mistakes.
Please, let's move on ahead. I do not hate anyone on a personal level if I do not like the console they're playing. I just make points regarding what that console is giving you and what something else is giving. This is just a hobby of mine.
It is so obvious this guy has no idea what he did wrong and does not understand it to any level or any degree. He is completely missing the point. It's not just about the fact that you posted this in regards to the console wars, it's the fact you posted it in the first place and did what you did. Even if this wasn't to do with the console wars, it was still morally wrong. It's not even morally ambiguous. What you did was completely absolutely disgusting. Posting someone's private information online with supposed consent just to own someone on Twitter. In no context is that okay, even if you remove the console wars from it.
If you take gaming, which is one of the best sources of entertainment mankind has given to us, which is so nurturing, so empowering. If you take that and try to make a war out of it, I'm up for it, because it's a debate at the end of the day, right? It's just a hobby.
Ah yes, just a hobby. It's so much of just a hobby that you decided to dox one of your patients over it. That is not a hobby, that is an obsession, and something you need to get help with. And again, what kind of defense is this? Why is this in your apology? It serves no purpose outside of a measly attempt to get yourself out of the consequences that you honestly deserve at this point, because you clearly do not understand what you did and the severity of what you did, even with the 20 years of medical school.
But you should never cross that line wherein that hobby transcends the path into someone's personal life, trying to dox people, trying to target them on a personal level, trying to make their life miserable, because that is what you guys are doing, basically. None of you guys know me, and I don't think that's necessary, because I totally apologize. I shouldn't have brought up my personal life.
Do you seriously not see the irony in what you're saying? That hobby should never transcend the line into someone's personal life. Meanwhile, you doxed your patient in order to own someone on Twitter. How is that not transcending that line, my guy? Explain it, because everything you're saying in this apology makes literally no sense. It is nonsensical rambling at its finest. The only person who put your family at risk here is you. You are the only person to blame. If you use your brain and realize how unethical what you did was, there would not be this much drama and the situation wouldn't exist. Maybe just try being a bit more mature and having some sense of intelligence, because clearly you did it in that scenario. Doxing your patient to own someone on Twitter and then getting backlash because of that is not anyone's fault but yours, and you are the only person to blame for your family being in potential risk because of that. Everything you are doing here is incredibly unprofessional, and if you lose your job, it is on your actions, nobody else's. Stop trying to shift responsibility and just grow the fuck up. Now we have, thank God, finally reached the end of that horrible apology, which means we have finally come to the end of my video. So with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do, aka join my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe. So I will see you all in the next video.